Hi, it's Kirk Horton of the ADK Rock and Metal channel, and today's guest is Rick Habib, the vocalist and guitarist of the highly respected New York melancholy death doom band Grey Skies Fallen. They've released their sixth album, Molded by Broken Hands, and that came out on the 8th of March via the highly respected underground metal label Profound Law. So, welcome to the channel. Rick, I believe it's about 6:05 there in New York. What have you been up to today?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Very appreciative. Very happy to be here. Yeah, today has been a work from home day, which is a leftover from the pandemic, which I'll gladly accept. I get to work from home half the time, and it was also after that I was demoing some guitars for my other band, and now here we are. Now, so it was a fun day of work and play, I guess.
That's the great thing, is it? I'm like you, hybrid working. In fact, I only go into the office one day a week.
Oh, that's great. I'm
But as
jealous
soon
of
as you
that. Yeah.
finish, you can just turn your attentions to your other creative interests, can't you? Like you said,
Yeah,
finish what you're doing, 5 minute break, straight into demoing new material.
it was yeah, I mean, I'm not uh, pandemic obviously was crazy, and it was an unbelievable time in the world, but I kind of, in without sounding terrible, I kind of benefited from it, and a lot of people in certain ways. As far as I live far away from where I work, so um, commuting 5 days a week was very, very tough on me, and this is now like 2 days a week. So
Yeah.
it's an unbelievable difference, and it really helps the music because you're able to instead of spending 12 hours a day out of the house for work and commuting, you can work, do things you enjoy. So it's really interesting how things have changed in the last 5 years.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you work in New York City. Where are you based on the railway line? Which
Yeah.
commuter town are you based in?
Well, I'm originally from Staten Island, which is part of New York City. It's an infamous part of New York City,
Yeah, it
but
is.
it's that's where I'm from. I moved from there about 8 years ago. I live in Pennsylvania now, so
Oh, okay.
the commute from Pennsylvania to New York City is kind of rough. I'm not gonna lie, it's brutal. So doing that 5 days a week was killing me. So now it's more manageable. So when I go to work a couple times a week, it's basically the whole day I'm out of the house. But the rest of the time, yeah, I could do things I need to get done, which I love.
Yeah, it's a work-life balance thing, isn't it? So let's go back to March 1997 then. So I know this is in the bio for the band. So you and Joe D'Angelo are at a My Dying Bride gig in New York, and you hand out your
Yeah,
cassette demo at the show. Where does this event rank, in those fortuitous seminal moments in the history of the band?
yeah. I
How
mean,
important is this My Dying Bride gig?
that was in May of '97. I'll never forget that day because the band, we had started a couple years earlier, and we had done a demo in '96 under a different band name, and then we were told that another band existed with that name, so we had to change the name in early '97. So right before that show, we changed the name to Gray Skies Fallen, and we took our demo, which was a drum machine on a very primitive drum machine. It was not great, but it had 4 songs that would show up on our first album. So we took that demo, maybe like 150 copies or so. We took it to Coney Island High, which was a venue in New York, to see My Dying Bride, and that was when they were touring with Dio. But they did a one-off in New York where they headlined with no Dio, and at the time they were my favorite band, so that was perfect for me. And we took those tapes to the show, handed them out, and then during the opening band, I got my head sliced open from some guy with a spiked wristband, and then I was bleeding all over the place, and then he came by again, crowd surfing again. He kicked me in the head like right after that, so I was concussed. It was like 100 degrees in there, and I went face first down right on the floor, unconscious. People picking me up, and then I hear the violin getting tuned up for My Dying Bride, and I was like, I'm all fucked up. I was like, this is my favorite band. I got to do something. So I washed my face with water. I slapped myself in the face, probably concussed myself even more. And then I saw My Dying Bride, which is a legendary show because they've only played New York once, and they don't come here. They don't come to the U.S. Too frequently or ever. So for me, that was the classic lineup. That
Yeah.
was the classic lineup there. The my favorite album. Excuse me, The
Like
Angel in the
Gods of the
Dark
Sun,
River.
isn't it? Oh, is it Angel? Oh, I
The
see.
Angel in the
Yeah.
Dark River is my favorite album from them, and that's that lineup. Yeah, like Gods of the Sun, same lineup. That was the last lineup, the last album with that lineup, and that was that tour. So very seminal moment in my show going career. I did get to chat with Aaron before the show too. We were talking about Doom. I remember mentioning for some reason Enchantment Dance the Marble Naked, if you recall that album. We were talking about that album for a little while. I don't know why that sticks out in my mind, but yeah, that was a great night, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pleased you mentioned Enchantment because they reformed 2 years ago,
Yes.
didn't they?
Yeah, and they did a new record
Yeah,
with the same lineup, which is unbelievable. I love hearing that shit. I love when
yeah.
stuff like that happens. A band will stop, and it was like 25 years or something, and then they came back with the same lineup. I think that's impressive. I like that.
Yeah, it's a big risk, isn't it? Because Possessed actually came back, didn't they, in 2018? That
Mm,
legendary
right.
California death thrash
Yeah.
band.
Sometimes
And that was like 3 decades away, wasn't it?
yeah, yep, yep. It's like friends of ours, a band Afterbirth. They put out an amazing record this year or last year, in but not of. And shout out to those guys. They were broken up for 25 years too at some point. So it's another band where they just stopped for
Yeah.
decades and then got back together, and now they're incredible. So worked
What,
out.
what, what's the reason for? There's been certain periods in Grey Skies Fallen, like between Two Way Mirror, that 2006 album, and then you did a couple of EPs, and then it wasn't until 2014
Mm.
where you did album number four. What was the reason for that? Because you've had periods of inactivity.
Yeah, at one point we were kind of like early 2010s. We were like, let's do an EP every year. Let's maybe let's do that because I don't know, things changed a little bit, and we wanted to get things out more frequently than we had. So you'll see 2010, then 2012 were the EPs. Then 2014 was the full length, The Many Sides of Truth. And then we did a 7-inch in 2015. So, you know, in the 2010s, there were like little things, EPs here and there. And that's how I guess we kept things coming out, even though there are gaps there. I mean, we've had lineup issues and people have, crazy jobs and schedules and that, and, sometimes you look up and it's 2 years later and you've got like one new song. That's just how it goes. And we tried to play a couple shows here and there and over the years, and if we're not recording, but now we're more in a release pattern where I'm more happy about these days. Even though our last record was 2020, this is 2024. We did a remix of our second album, Tomorrow's in Doubt. That we did that with Dan Swano, and that was 2022. So every 2 years or so, we're gonna do something.
Yeah, I noticed that you did a 20-year anniversary, a new mix of that album. Was it
Yeah,
because you wanted Dan Swano's fingerprints on it? Because obviously,
yeah. It just sounds a hundred times
separately.
better.
Yeah.
It sounds a million times better. Actually, I would love it. Love the way it came out, and we're definitely gonna do that for Two Way Mirror as well.
Mm.
Even though that's the oddball album, that's the mellow record, and but we're gonna. I haven't announced this yet, but I'm gonna. Well, who cares? I'm gonna re-record all the guitars on that album, and I'm gonna redo all the vocals on that album. So it's gonna be. I don't like re-recording whole albums. I don't. But this is gonna be like a new version of Two Way Mirror, where we're gonna keep the bass, we're gonna keep the drums. I'm gonna redo the guitars and redo the vocals, and it's gonna be 100 times better. And Swano's gonna mix it, so that will be that version of Two Way Mirror, and hopefully we could do that next year.
Or I guess you could just wait until 2026 because then it'll be 20 years again, won't
That is true. That is true.
it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, in all honesty, that's probably what will happen. Because things do cost money, and we do have to come up with some money, and Swano's not cheap. So, it might be 2026. 2024 is going to be halfway over in a blink of an eye anyway, before you know it. So,
I just want to touch upon that 2020 album, Cold Dead Lands. I really enjoyed that album. I didn't review it at the time because we only formed Screen Blast Repeat in 2020. So it just wouldn't have been on my radar. But I was listening to it today. There's kind of like a feeling in the camp there, isn't there, that that's a watershed record for the band, and it didn't quite receive the attention or promotional cycle it deserved, obviously because of COVID.
Yeah.
So to what extent does this feeling of frustration make your new album even more difficult to write when you know you've already written a classic that didn't really get any attention?
Well, in between, that album was supposed to get put out by Hammerheart Records.
And, the German label.
I think they're Dutch.
Yeah.
And the pandemic, put the kibosh on that right. It was right then. So that got canceled. But that was very disappointing, and it was hard to. It was rough after that for a couple months. But at that point, actually, we did that album as a 3-piece. It was just me on guitars and Tom on bass and Sal on drums. So right after that, we got Joe back, and Joe is a founding member of the band with me. He's been in and out of the band over the years, and now he's been in the band for a few years now. So once we got him back, it kind of was like, okay, forget the last record. Let's concentrate on what we could do now with Joe, and we did, I think, a better record this time.
It's quite different, isn't it? The new album. You have actually. My next question was going to be about Joe D'Angelo, your founding lead guitarist. I was going to say, describe how important it is to have him back on the team.
We've done a few albums. His last record with us prior to this one was the EP we did in 2010 called Along Came Life. That was a weird. That album, that EP has some issues, and I wish we could redo some things on that, but who knows down the line. Anyway, the point is, he having him back is just it's kind of a feeling of comfort in a way, like it's the way it used to be, the feelings of how when we started. Those memories come back, and it's we gel together when we play and when we write together. It's kind of like we feed off each other, and when we're writing riffs, and we kind of know what we're gonna do, and it's a familiarity. So very happy to have him back, and at this point in the game, almost 30 years in, and I'm closing in on 50 in a couple of years. It's like, I think this is it. I think everybody's happy with the way things are, and we're pretty much like set in the lineup, and you're ready to move forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess there's an element of trust when you know someone almost telepathically, like you do with Joe.
Right. So there
must be a feeling of comfort knowing I can just trust him to write the counter melody in this chorus, and I know it's going to be good, for example.
Yes, yeah, and he writes great riffs, and he does good vocals and stuff, and we've known each other for over 30 years, 32 years. That's crazy to think about. Now you look back at things, and it's like 30 years I've known this guy. It's crazy. It's unbelievable.
Is it 1992 when you first started jamming together?
Yes, late 92, maybe early 93, we formed our first little band. We called ourselves Crystal Logic, based off of the Manila Road record. And we were like 16 years old, and writing. I still have some tapes like from that, and it was some doomy stuff. It was pretty cool, but it sucked. But looking back, it was our humble beginnings, and here we are 32 something years later, still doing it. It's hard to wrap my mind around sometimes.
Yeah, it's a triumph, isn't it? And the Molded by Broken Hands, then, album number 6. It does have a wider dynamic range, doesn't it, than your 2020 LP, and more aggressive tempo than your last record. So why is this such an agitated album?
Um, the state of things, like I don't know. I don't want to say the state of the world kind of reflects in the music, and I know that's corny and stuff, but there's anger in there in the lyrics, and sometimes in the music as well. It's easy to take influence from what's happening and convert it to music. Sometimes things aren't awesome, and things are crazy in the world. I don't know if you saw a guy he set himself on fire in New York City today. Like, this is crazy shit. Like, if I was there, I work 2 blocks from there. So, I would have smelled the stench of this guy self-immolating, and it's crazy, man. So, I guess it reflects in the music where it's a little more aggressive or something like that, or angry and at times. Um, I see the new stuff even progressing more in that vein. We're already starting to write new material.
I think that's a good thing as well for the music because to me, to use a metaphor, when I'm listening to this album, it's almost like you can imagine someone breaking out of a prison. Like the chains are falling, they're just ripping them up, and it's this great
Right.
struggle, and it's not going to be easy, is it, to get out and be free, and the dynamics of the music just seem to match that. Because I want to talk about, is it the penultimate song, "Save Us"?
Mm-hmm.
Great
Yes.
song. And when I did the review, I put the threats to modulate to a different tempo leave you in a state of apprehensive anxiety. Is it possible to write doom metal with a sense of urgency? Grey Skies Fallen, believe so. So, how much practice did this song demand in the rehearsal room before you finally nailed it down in the studio?
Um. Not. We most of the. I don't know. I would have to go back and look at our rehearsal footage, because when we jam, I set up the iPhone and I film everything, and that's it. I put it on our on an unlisted YouTube, and then everybody has the footage. So I would have to go back and check that. But oh man, I'm sorry, I totally blanked out. I lost the I lost your question there.
Yeah, so Save Us. It's quite a
Oh
dramatic
yeah,
song, isn't it? So I'm
yeah.
just
So
thinking that you can't just walk into a studio and just knock that one out, can you? There's got to be a lot of preparation for a song like that.
yeah, if you like, that's what I was gonna say. The rehearsal stuff is more stripped down, and then you get in the studio, and then you start layering, and then you hear, the harmonies are pretty much set before we go in. But there are certain things, like vocal wise, I didn't come up with that end part, that whole end part, the clean part, and the growls before that, until everything was recorded, and I was sitting home listening to the rough mixes and all the instruments and everything sounded, and then I was able to kind of come up with the lyrics and the vocals. So yeah, that song definitely. I needed to hear it before. I needed to hear it in full before everything kind of came together. In
Yeah,
particular, that one. Yeah.
definitely a standout track. My favorite song, you have a video for this, I Can Hear Your Voice. That is an emotional roller coaster. And even with that, there's like a burning aggression. And it keeps
Mm-hmm.
threatening to go into this really violent death metal, like double timing beat, doesn't it? But it doesn't. You kind of
It kind
breathe
of
that
leaves you
and
there,
punctuate between
right?
words. I love how you've done that.
Mm-hmm.
What's the subject matter for this song? Because the title seems quite poignant. I Can Hear Your Voice.
Um, Panic attacks, and sometimes just concentrating on somebody's voice, or something familiar can pull you out of it. I don't want to get. I go through that shit. Which is not great. Is not great, and sometimes it'll happen. Like, one time I had this fucking panic attack on a bus, and it was crazy, and luckily it was in New York City, so I could stop and just get off, and I was sitting there on a on a street corner, like having this fucking breakdown. It was insane. And then I called Joe. I don't know why I called Joe. He's not the first person I will call in that situation. And we spoke, and it kind of like he calmed me down just hearing his voice. And I don't think that was, I'm thinking about that for the first time as I say this right now since then. So I don't, maybe that was a subconscious thing when I wrote it, but that song is definitely about that kind of thing. Just trying to reel yourself in, from from the edge or something where you're being affected very badly.
Is it like a coping strategy, say like count to 10, when they say about anger management, that
Right, or
techniques, or is it
concentrate on.
something that you would do for just try and concentrate on a blissful voice or a voice that you can trust? And
Right,
yeah,
familiarity, or something that, yes, you can trust, or something makes you comfortable. Focus on a dot on the wall or something. Anything can get you out of that. But yeah, that's basically what that song's about. And we did the
yeah,
video about a month ago. It came out really nice, I think.
yeah, I like the video for it. It's a good performance video as well, isn't it? There's some great shots of Joe playing his lead melodies. There's some great guitar scales, some fretwork
Yeah.
from you as well. You can see. Are you I'm not a musician, so when you do a music video like that,
This was
are you playing the real when you're
yeah,
fretting?
yeah,
I don't know if you play. Are you playing the real solo?
yeah. We hadn't played that song since we recorded it, and we recorded the instruments for that record in summer of 2022. So it was almost 2 years. So I had to cram the day before and relearn. Yeah. So you're basically just miming, and you're not plugged in loud to the sound, and you're just basically playing along to the song from the record very loudly, because Sal's got to play his drums, so you got to hear the music over the drums, and you just mime it, and hope that you're playing the right the right things. I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I was, hopefully, but yeah, you could get away with certain things, but it came out, it looks really good, and we wanted that straight performance video for this, because we did two previous videos. One was like animation with performance, and the other one was all animation, and this one was just all performance. So that's how I wanted that one to go.
Do you know the other two? I know which ones you're talking about. The animated ones. Were any of them AI generated?
Our old keyboard player, Craig Rossi, yeah, he generates the still images, and then he animates them. I know I know the AI thing is a touchy subject, and people, they think, okay, let's make an AI video. I'm gonna type in make a heavy metal video. It's just not the way it happens. And it takes a lot of work to make that video. It's not magic. So when I say he generates the artwork with the AI and then animates that, people say, oh, you should be paying artists for that. A band like us, if we were to pay for 20 full still images, you're talking money that we don't have. Yeah. And this is a tool for us where I would never have an AI album cover. I'll tell you that. That's kind of where I draw the line. But as far as the video, like I said, it's not a simple thing. It's like make a marching army and have them do this, and it just doesn't work like that. So it takes a lot of work to do that, even if the images are AI generated. So yeah, for those two videos, yeah, probably might not do that again, based on the current climate of people, and the AI situation. But I don't know. I think 10 years from now, the whole landscape is gonna be quite different.
Yeah. We're waiting for the first AI generated metal album, aren't we? I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
drum machines were probably creating this anxiety in the late 70s, weren't they? Who cares? Drum
Sure.
machines are great. I love listening to
Right.
music with drum machines. I'm wearing a Depeche Mode t-shirt, for God's sake. So,
Exactly.
but
I
that
mean,
doesn't create any anxiety now, does it?
yeah. I mean, look, I understand this, the artists and their plight and all this, but we'll never, we'll always pay for Travis Smith to do our record covers and for our video, maybe we did some AI generation. Looks cool to me.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. The one of them reminded me that great Pearl Jam video, Evolution. Did you ever see that video?
I'm not familiar with that one. No.
It's a really good video. That I remember seeing that in the late 90s on MTV Super Rock. Yeah, check that out. I mean, Pearl Jam. Who listens to them now? I mean,
They just came out a new record today, I think.
Oh yeah, do you know? I saw that they did an interview.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't dare listen to it, to be honest.
My drummer is a big Pearl Jam guy, Sal. He loves it.
Yeah.
He loved it back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I love the first two albums. I just fear that they're going to sound like your typical dad rock band.
Yeah, right,
They're just going to spoil things, isn't it?
Yeah, they could.
Probably don't, but I don't know if I want to give it a listen. So what I always ask, what was the most difficult song to record on the album? So I'm going to switch it. What was the easiest song to record for this album, Molded by Broken Hands?
Easiest, I would probably say, Knowing That You're There. The last song on the album. That was a song Joe had come up with about over 20 years ago. There was a demo that he had done with the opening riff to that song, and a couple of riffs were in this old demo that he had forgotten about, and I had always kept. I said, let's revisit this, and he'd forgotten about it, and we took the skeleton of that demo and we turned it into this song. So it's not the hardest song to play. So it was once we demoed it at home and knew what we were gonna do, it came together quickly. So that was straightforward. But I think that's one of my favorite songs in the album. So it doesn't matter, how easy something is or whatever. It matters how it sounds, and to me that one sounds choice.
Yeah, I was watching an interview with Trent Reznor, and he was saying that it pissed him off how easy it was to write Head Like a Hoe, because every other song on that album was like really difficult, and he just did that in one day, and he was like, oh, I fucking hate this song. It needs to be more difficult to write for me to love it.
Right.
It's fantastic story, that, isn't it? Let's talk about your voice on this one. So you're not afraid to expand your register really on this album, are you? Especially on songs like Cracks in Time. So which singers did you model yourself on, to master that more traditional heavy metal voice, which seems to be quite prominent on this record?
Well, I mean, my influences as growing up, I guess they rub off, but I'm of course pale in comparison. I'm not trying to compare myself to these people, but maybe as far as how I developed some of my style or whatever, Dickinson and Michael Kiske from Halloween, even Messiah from Candlemass. Even though the operatic, I don't know. Some people say that I got the operatic thing, but I don't know. I don't really hear that. But I don't know. Vocalists like that, Robert Lowe from Solitude Aeternus, was a big time. I love his style, powerful, clean vocals. He reminds me of Dio, so stuff like that. But as far as death metal vocals, different stuff. The Ackerfeld and the Dan Swano, those are my two guys, and things like Dark Tranquility, Michael Stan, like his vocals, his death vocals, I always liked. So there's a ton of influences vocal wise that I guess I throw in a jar and shake it all together and see what comes out. But people say I don't sound like the way I talk, because I sound like a New York Goomba or whatever. So I guess I have a different kind of singing voice than my oafish talking voice.
Yeah, you've definitely got that quintessential New York accent that I know from films like Sleepers and Goodfellas. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, man. This is where we come from. That's how it is.
and you get a lot of respect in England for that because we apparently people don't really have that accent now in New York. When I speak to people, like, oh, I'm going to New York for Christmas, and they say, oh, did the cab drivers all speak like fucking Joe Pesci, Rob like, no, none of them do. Like, what?
You're right. Yeah. When I went to England, they would I guess I was a bit more hefty at that point, and they would say, "Oh, Tony Soprano." I was Tony Soprano over there because when I would talk, they would say, "Oh, Tony Soprano." So a lot of people call me Tony Soprano in 2007, which was right around the time The Sopranos ended. So I guess it was hot on that. So yeah, they like the accent over there by you. So if we ever play over there, I'm gonna do some banter in between songs and see how it goes.
Yeah, it's probably the most famous American accent over here in England. Or like people can do that Texas drawl,
right? The southern,
yeah, but the New York one is
the New York
taken very because we know it so well because of all these great films and
right.
TV shows, don't we? That are
any kind of gangster movie, you get that and all that stuff. Yeah, we love it.
I mean, even Woody Allen films. I've always been a big fan of Woody Allen, and obviously
New York.
Almost every film's a love letter to New York, isn't it?
Yep.
In the 80s, yeah. Although it looks quite, to me, even though when you watch a film like Hannah and Her Sisters, like that mid-80s golden period, New York looks fucking rough.
Gritty, right? That's what they say.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm not sure this is the place I want to be walking into at night.
New York in the 70s and 80s was not it was like that. I mean, if you look at pictures of the subway in the 80s, it was just covered in graffiti and it's very, very unsafe. And, you had Bernard Goetz, if you're familiar with him. He was a subway vigilante that shot a bunch of guys they were going to mug him. This was a big story in like 1984. So New York it was like that. And it's kind of, I don't want to say it's kind of like that now, but it's definitely heading towards that. A lot of craziness going on in the city lately. Just people being thrown in front of subway trains and a lot of homelessness problems and just people, from my experience, just going to work, you just see a lot of it. You just see a lot of down and out people all over the place, and that wasn't like that 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It was, things are getting a little testy in New York City these days.
Yeah, because obviously over here we were aware that in the late 1780s it was fucking a crime epidemic in New York, and like muggings were just so commonplace, weren't they?
Rudy Giuliani is credited with cleaning up New York, and it's funny because what he's become, in the last however many years, he's a pariah in New York now. So he went from being America's mayor to being like some scumbag douche that everyone wants to fucking,
Yeah.
But that's for a different story. But he's credited with cleaning everything up in like early 90s. 92 is when I think he became the mayor, and and then after that we had Mike Bloomberg, who was pretty much the same, and then people don't like who I say we. I don't live in New York anymore, so I don't know why I keep saying that, but people don't like I guess you can't take it out of it at this point, but people are unhappy with the leadership, but everyone's unhappy with all the leadership everywhere. And
yeah, these are anxious times we're living in. As you said, someone set himself on fire in New York. I saw in the news a month ago, is it a former US Air Force officer set himself on fire in Washington, didn't he, to protest the Israeli bombardment of Gaza.
The Palestinian stuff. And today was over Trump. Today was in front of the Trump trial. He's on trial right now in New York, right where I work, right 2 blocks from the courthouse, and a guy self-immolated right there, right in front. And it was fucking crazy because I don't sit here and watch the news, but my phone goes off. Oh, put on, check this out. So I go on Twitter, and you see the CNN footage, and they're doing a play-by-play of the man being. The woman's doing a play-by-play of the guy burning to death. I smell the flesh. She's calling it out like his arm is hanging. I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck is this? Is crazy. It's like the
Yeah.
Hindenburg. So
Why are you fucking filming it and not helping him? Someone's
and
on
one
fire, so I think I'll just film it as a commentary. What the fuck's wrong with
another guy, I think it was the Fox News one, which again a joke, but it was there and I saw it, and he's calling the action like sports, and then like a minute into it, get a fire extinguisher. A minute into it,
you
the
know?
guy's been burning for a minute, and you're talking about get a fire. Where are you gonna get a fire extinguisher from? You're in the middle of New York City, unless you got one in your truck or something. But I don't know. It was crazy, man. And you hear people screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, imagine seeing that right in front of you. Yeah, that's
People's reactions nowadays,
extreme.
they are, because like I can't remember which comedian said it over here, and there's a story like, oh, there was a minor earthquake in England, and someone had put someone was like, yeah, it felt like a bus had crashed, into the downstairs part of my house. The first thing they did was go on Twitter to see if it had happened. It's like, why don't you just fucking check if a bus had crashed into your house instead, rather than to go on Twitter to check if it happened?
Exactly. And we had an earthquake here about 2 weeks ago, and it was a 4 point something, and we don't get that around here. So it was like, whoa, it was pretty crazy. But not used to that.
Yeah. So I want to ask you quickly, Profound Law then. So did you approach them, or did they approach you? How did that deal come about?
It came about because Reeking Aura, our other band, is on that label, and I was that opened the door to discussion. Chris Burney, who owns the label, he was familiar with Gray Skies in the past. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I believe he enjoys our old material. And it was, to me, he was our first choice for the last two albums. For the last 10 years, they've been like my favorite label as far as putting out stuff. So it's great to be on that label. Very, very happy.
Yeah, Profound Law and 20 Bucks Spin.
Yeah,
They're the prestigious ones in America, aren't they? Certainly, when I get something through on that label, I'm like, oh, I'll review this. This is probably going to be.
Yeah, those are. Yeah, I agree, man.
Yeah, good labels. So, yeah, quick one. Who are your 5 desert island bands or solo artists that have shaped you as a musical artist? Just 5. Not easy to put you on the spot, but.
Well, I mean, if we're going back to just forever, growing up, I was a huge Metallica fan, so they were very influential on me, Metallica, Iron Maiden, big time Maiden fan. I'm going to see them in November or October. I got floor every time they come. I pay for the floor seats, so you just pay whatever and you just go up there. You don't know how much longer they'll be doing this. So
yeah.
My Dying Bride, the reason, heavily influential when we formed the band. Man, Floyd. I love me some Pink Floyd. And trying to think who would be my 5th. Let's see, we got
difficult, isn't it, to just
it is the 5th one. I'll probably go with Opeth. When I didn't get on the Opeth train until, this is crazy, but until My Arms Your Hearse. So it was their 3rd album, and I don't know what the hell I was doing in 1995 and 1996. I don't know how I missed those first 2, but once I got My Arms Your Hearse, I was like, holy shit, that's still my favorite Opeth record. But yeah, Opeth, My Dying Bride, Pink Floyd, Metallica, Iron Maiden. Those are my 5, I guess.
So Opeth's debut show in America.
I played that show.
They're below you on the bill, aren't they?
No. We were 2 bands before them.
Okay.
They were using my amps, and they they didn't have gear for whatever reason. I guess you couldn't, you couldn't fly over with guitars, so they needed guitars, they needed amps, and Catatonia, same thing. So we tuned to C sharp. Those guys tuned to E, so they couldn't use our guitars. And, I had my Les Paul at the time or something, so they had to use knockoff like Fender Strats, or they were shit guitars. And so their first shows they were using borrowed gear. And that was Milwaukee Metal Fest 2000. Still probably the highlight of our whole deal, like that show right there. It was us, Catatonia, then Opeth making their US debut. So
great band.
That's some rarefied air.
Yeah, the one, the first one you played, Milwaukee, was it In Flames, and who was the other band on the bill?
99 was our first Milwaukee. In Flames could have been on that one. I know The Gathering was, Cradle of Filth was on that one. That was a big one for them. Those were Anathema. That was their first show. Yeah, that was Anathema. They played back-to-back years, 2000 and 99.
Yeah.
So these were all my favorite bands, like of that time, of the last generation. So I got to play with these guys and see them, and it was crazy. I peaked at 24, so that's kind of depressing. I was 24 years old at the time.
Wow, how good is that 1995 Anathema album, The Silent Enigma?
I was just listening to that 3 days ago on my way home from work. I was just listening to that album and thinking about how that's the only record Vincent did death vocals on. Because and I love his growls, and they're not like straight on death metal, like guttural. They're clean death vocals that I really like the way he did those, and it's a shame that he only did them on that one record. But after that was Eternity, and that's when the whole shift started. And I still think the worst thing that happened to Anathema was when they lost Duncan Patterson. They were still great after that, but that guy was great songwriter and bass player, and you lose stuff. You lose something, even if they still did Judgment after that and all those great records after that. But still, like, to me, that old Anathema stuff is just unbelievable. Great band, man.
Do you know what kind of puts me off now with Anathema? You get the impression they don't like the metal stuff.
It kind of comes off that way, right?
Yeah, and it's annoying because it's so good and it's influential, and they've always been its own.
That it is. It is influential, and I think they did. They're no longer around, right? They're having issues. Daniel's having issues or whatever, but before they broke up, maybe a couple of years, they did a whole career retrospective tour, I think, or where they did play the old metal songs. I think they brought Darren White back for certain shows, which would have been. These are things like I should just fly over, because you're not going to be able to see that. I should have just flown over and seen that. That happened, because it's never going to happen again. And so that was killer.
Great band, yeah. Definitely. So what are the plans for Grey Skies Fallen for the rest of 2024?
We're working on Canada for August. Hopefully that comes together. Do a few shows up in Canada, which would be great. It's the home of our label, so we would be able to go up there in Toronto. Hope that happens. And that's the only thing. Even that's not officially on the books. So we have nothing on the books show wise, but we're trying to put things together. So hopefully by the end of the year we have the little Canadian run, and maybe a local show that we're gonna do, and maybe something like I said in the beginning. We were talking to somebody in England. Maybe we could put something together, but I don't know. I would love it, man. That's one of the dreams and the goals,
Definitely. Yeah, let me know about that. I'll come to the gig.
Hell yeah.
In London.
Yeah, that'd be great.
At the ADK, we're starting to probably venture out into that now, putting on monthly shows in a town called Bedford, then Cambridge, the famous university city. These are all in the southeast of England.
Very cool.
So who knows? If we can grow that, I'd love to bring over death doom bands from America, post metal bands from Norway.
Man,
that'd be great.
That
Because
would
we
be
can
great.
link it with a London show wherever we have ours. As long as any international artist book a London show, then do ours as well while you're over
Right.
here.
Hell
That's what we're
yeah.
looking to do.
Nice loop. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And for you as an American, you'd be like, "Oh, London to Cambridge, that's only an hour's drive,"
No, I mean,
which is stressful in England, not to a New Yorker.
for me, like I live in Pennsylvania now, so for me, anything is an hour and a half. Or like if
Yeah,
I want to go to practice, it's an hour and a half. It's an hour
fucking hell.
45. If I want to go to Staten Island, it's an hour 45. So I'm used to it. That's what I signed up for. But when I hear people like, I don't want to go there, it's a 25-minute drive. I'm like, it takes me 25 minutes to get to the supermarket over here where I live. So it's a different mentality when you live in the woods where I live. I live in
Yeah.
the middle of the wood. I live in a mountain in the woods. So it's different than New York.
It sounds like you needed it, that switch, and that
Yeah.
it's really helped you.
Yeah, man, I love the tranquility, and the only thing is the driving. But
Mhm.
if you sign up for that and you're willing to do it, I got tons of music to listen to and podcasts I listen
Yeah.
to in the car, so it's cool. Whatever. And I don't have neighbors around. I can play my music as loud as I want, as long as I want, as late as I want. So
Yeah.
it's cool. I can't
I'm
complain.
working from home
Yeah,
three
half the
out of
time.
5 working days, is it? Or two that you get to work from home?
It's half the time basically.
Yeah.
So one week it's 2 days, the next week it's 3 days. But on those days or on those weeks where I gotta go in 3 days, I'll take off a day here or there to make it easier. I got a pretty
Yeah.
good job, so I gotta, I can't complain. I got so much vacation time in the bank, so that's why I could tour.
Yeah.
If we can go to Europe, man, I don't have to worry about shit as far as my job. So I'm lucky as far as that goes.
See, I think being on Profound Law, that should help you truly get on some of the European festivals, shouldn't it?
It
Just for
should,
prestige alone.
as far as exposure, the band is on a good label,
Mm.
but we'll see. I've been trying trying to get back on that Milwaukee Metal Fest. They restarted it a couple of years ago from Jamie Jasta from Hatebreed purchased the rights, and
Perfection.
the
Yeah.
next year, this year, his lineup is insane. It's very good, and man, I try to sell like, hey, we're alumni. We
Yeah.
played 3 times there. We could do well if we are given the opportunity. So I have people still to this day that message me about our performances in Milwaukee and stuff like that. So we just need an opportunity, and I think it's a kind of a situation where you might have us perform it, and people, the majority of people might not know who we are when we step on stage, but when we're finished they're going to know who we are, and I just want that chance
Yeah,
again.
definitely. Just
Yeah.
one last question then. So I also know some of you work in that left field death metal band Reeking Aura, Scream Blast Repeat, our sister organization. We give it a solid 7 out of 10. You're also in the grindcore group Buckshot Facelift. You're wearing the t-shirt, aren't you,
Oh yeah, in
in
the
your
new
videos?
video.
That's Fallen.
Right. Yep.
So besides Grey Skies Fallen, which other musical projects will you be working on over the next 12 months?
Everything. So Reeking Aura, we're in the middle of writing our next record, and we hope to be in the studio in the fall. And that album, just from the demos of the new material, is really, every band says this, of course, but to me and to the guys in the band, it's just like, wow, it's next level stuff compared to the first one. So we're very excited about that. Buckshot Facelift has been inactive for quite a while. Reeking Aura is all of Buckshot Facelift,
Yeah, I know it's that.
except the drummer Sal, who's Grey Skies Fallen drummer. So we're reactivating Buckshot for this summer to do a festival in Long Island, and there's potential to do some new material, which I would recommend our 2017 album called Ulcer Island, and talk about overlooked. That's one of my favorite records that I've been a part of, and that's a fierce fucking album. And I need that shit permeate and to get out there a little bit more. So hopefully, doing that and getting the band back together can do that. And finally, Tom and I have a instrumental band called Brave the Waters, which is like ambient instrumental trippy music, and we're slowly putting together the third album, recording it for that right now. So a bunch of things over the next 12 months, and I really hope all the bands are active, and I hope they're all successful.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Ulster Island. So the track listing on there. So this is full on grindcore, is it?
I would say, well, Buckshot, when they started, I would say full on grindcore. Terrell and myself joined around 2012, and we injected a little bit of the death metal into it. So the Living Ghosts of the North Shore EP from 2014 and the Ulster Island record are the ones with me and Terrell, and those are definitely grindy death metal albums. And I'd recommend that to all. And it's a killer album. It's actually getting a cassette reissue shortly, soon on Paragon Records, which is cool.
Yeah. So you've got a song called "Burn the Baby Raper." Is that about Ian Watkins of Lost Prophets, by any chance?
It should be. It should be about that guy. Man, that guy. Just looking at his face. Just looking at his face.
What a song title, by the way. You get your attention, it's like fucking hell.
It's a short song, but it's a brutal one. Yeah, check that record out, man. There's so much good stuff on there.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Rick. And I just want to say to our viewers, definitely go out and listen to the latest album from Grey Skies Fallen. Not only because it's on Profound Law, which we can all trust and know is one of the best boutique extreme metal, experimental, progressive metal labels in the world, not just in Canada and North America. So it's called Molded by Broken Hands. I think, can I just check? Is there a cover? Is the CD version have a cover on it? The last track on this album?
The CD version has a bonus track, which is not a cover. It was supposed to be on the album. Basically, a little inside baseball here. The vinyl, the record was going to be too long for a single vinyl and too short for a double vinyl. So we had to cut a song on the vinyl, and basically the vinyl release is considered the album. So the bonus track, which is on the CD, was from those sessions. Like I said, it was supposed to be on the record, and it's one of my favorite songs. So it's like it kills me sometimes where it's not on there. But yeah, the people that buy the CD are, they get that extra track, and it's a killer song.
Severing the Soul, it's called.
Yeah. So
the CD version, it's a 53-minute album with that 48 minutes if you get the vinyl version. That's just about right, I would say, for a metal album.
You don't want to go too much.
I review an album every day for Scream Bash Repeat, and sometimes when you get a fucking album that's longer than an hour, it's a genre that you're not always on board with. Like, oh god,
it's like 2 hours.
I know. Yeah, don't get me wrong. If it's a band like Dream Theater or Tool or Periphery, God, you'd be asking for your money back if it wasn't a minimum of 1 hour and 10 minutes. Between the Buried and Me, those bands, you need it to be on. But certain genres, Death Doom's one where I can easily listen to an hour of it. But at the beginning, before I said melancholy Death Doom band, Grey Skies Fallen. Mm-hmm. What other terms have you heard by people to describe the music of
progressive doom? Progressive doom.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which is interesting. It's kind of like an oxymoron, but it's cool. I'll take that. Or that's what I hear a lot. Or even the mellow death, which I don't really hear.
I don't hear that.
I don't hear, but a lot of people call some mellow. First of all, I hate that term, mellow death. If you're going to see a melodic death metal band, that's how I say it. But I mean, we have elements, I guess, of that, but to call some mellow death band, I don't know.
I think your melodies are far more sophisticated than what melodic death metal has come. That Swedish sound. I'm sick of it. I could not give a shit about that sound. I've heard it too many times. Whereas Opeth, obviously, I can listen to all the time. And progressive doom, the oxymoron, that is a good description of your music, actually, isn't it? There's some, it's a really advanced level of melody that you're playing. You're not just doing those spectacular Iron Maiden guitar harmonizing, extravagant, rock posturing with
Yeah, we're
death
not too
metal vocals.
flashy. I'm not a wizard on the fretboard. So I try to play more with emotion, I guess.
Mm.
It kind of makes up for my lack of talent. But,
Although on that video, the last video you did, all the shots show you doing the really difficult fret stretches.
while I'm trying to sing, yeah. So who knows? Who
So
knows
he's
if
like, "Oh no,
that's
no, cut that," and then the next one will show you like 7 fret, like diminished scale, but you're like, "Oh yeah, keep that
yeah.
line."
Right. It looks better. Yeah, keep that shot there. Exactly.
Oh, man. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining us on the channel, Rick. Please keep us updated if the rudimentary discussions you've had with an English band, which you can't name, that comes to fruition and you do end up putting on a show. It'd be great if you could let us know. We'll go to that gig and cover it. And yeah, thanks for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day in New York.